Likely the reason they don't release the JFK files, I imagine, is probably because it was somebody who was anti-Catholic. And they figured that that would tear the country apart. Because there were people that had issues with it. One of the biggest issues, and so that's why I think they don't release it. One of the biggest issues people have, but although it's never okay to kill somebody, like for any faith to think that no, this is our duty. No, that's then you've become a radicalized faith. Like you just have to put some of that stuff in God's hands and let Him handle it. But I would imagine that's why it's not released. Did Christians kill him? Christians that weren't Catholic. I don't know. Or did the Vatican themselves, did Kennedy decide he wasn't going to follow the Vatican and that's what got him killed? I'm not really sure. But it's interesting because this is Norman Vincent Peale. This was the clergyman, he was a Protestant clergyman, that Donald Trump when he went to church often when he was younger, this was who he resonates a lot with. I mean, as far as like this man also, he wrote The Power of Positive Thinking. He didn't like Kennedy. He had an anti-Kennedy campaign, and it was because he was Catholic. So this is such a touchy area because I can understand it from this side totally. But I mean, I think when you see that your church has this massive, at this time they didn't, but over its history, this massive child abuse problem, then you should question it. This is why denominations, it's like a lot of people just get tired of the denominations. But the biggest thing that people had issue with the Catholics is because of so many pagan practices, stuff that goes so against the Bible. So, one of those things being that you refer to the Pope or any of these priests, you call them Father. Jesus literally, or God literally said, don't call anybody here Father. And I don't think He meant your biological father. He meant a church because He knew people would do it. You only have one Holy Father. But they call Him there in the Vatican, that Pope, the Holy Father. You're expected to bend down and kneel and kiss His ring. So there's a reason Americans say we don't kneel to anybody but Jesus, except Jesus Christ. I mean, we fought a war over this crap. We did. We fought a war over this. So that's the reason people had issue with the Vatican, okay? And I just think that, I bet that because I guess people ended up hating him. But what his fight was against Kennedy was that the Roman Catholic Church will be running the government. And that's true, because they don't see Jesus as the king. They see the Pope as the king. And then they, look at how they've raised up Mary. It's very alarming, all of it. But we're a country that is open to religion. But people were concerned about it. So I bet you that's what it was. It was people that were anti-Catholic, which that's not good. I mean, if somebody gets in and they're Catholic or whatever, sometimes you have to just put things in God's hands. But he was very attacked because he was very strong. In fact, Kennedy, when JFK went to see the Pope, well, he went to see the dying Pope, I think it was, but he was dead by the time he got there. And so the next Pope had already been, initiated in, however they do that. And so when you go to meet the Pope, you are expected to kneel, kiss the ring, and bow. Yeah, so see, that's really, you don't want to be doing that. I mean, not if you're a Christian. But that's why people have issue with the Vatican. So, he didn't do it, but he didn't do it because he made a remark about he would just love it if I did that. Instead, they nodded heads and they shook hands. But this was a big deal, and so before people say, oh, this is ridiculous, no, if you look at what our founding was based on, it was trying to get away from the kings. So and people do wonder, it was very slim, Kennedy winning, and some say he didn't win, but that's neither here nor there. But he went on a crusade about it. In 1960, Peale, as spokesman for 150 Protestant clergymen, opposed the election of JFK. Quote, faced with the election of a Catholic, Peel declared, our culture is at stake. In a written manifesto, Peel and his group also declared JFK would serve the interests of the Catholic Church before the interests of the United States. It is inconceivable that a Roman Catholic president would not be under extreme pressure by the hierarchy of his church to accede to his policies with respect to foreign interests, and that the election of a Catholic might even end free speech in America. A Protestant theologian responded and said Dr. Peel and his associates show blind prejudice. Protestant Episcopalian Bishop James Pike echoed any argument which would rule out a Roman Catholic just because he is Roman Catholic is both bigotry and a violation of the constitutional guarantee of no religious test for public office. You have to wonder why did we get rid of no religious test? Because think about it, that means even if Church of Satan wanted to run and get in, just think, is that what you is? Do you think God's going to keep the Christian God's going to keep protecting your country? But you can't go after it. But I mean, what I'm trying to say is you have to think who came up with the idea that there should be no religious test. And I'm not saying there should be a test, but this is something where it's in voters' minds. But as time goes on, like everything, people forget why the Puritans, why the Pilgrims came. They were getting away from the kings. When you're under the Roman Catholic religion, you have a king. It's the Pope. So yeah, I could see why people had problems, but the problem is that, sometimes you just have to turn things over to God. I can understand what he was saying. I totally do. Look at what happened to our country, though. I mean, you got JFK that got shot and RFK, and then before them it was MLK. Plus, they were tied to the mob. That didn't help anything. So yeah, maybe they don't tell anybody because it was. Who knows? I'm not saying that's true. It's just there has to be some reason. Donald Trump said if he saw it or. You wouldn't want to know or something. What I said in my video earlier about how he said that if you saw what he saw, you wouldn't want to know either. Maybe. But then again, too, I just wonder because if you do believe in God, you have to wonder. A lot of problems happened with that. I mean, they were tied to the underworld in many ways through Joe Kennedy and having ties to the mob, no matter what they say they were. So there's just all these things. So you have to look at it like everybody was always trying to get a hold of America, right? And rein America in to be under some king. And that Roman Catholic Vatican is the same way. Again, I was raised Roman Catholic, so I have nothing against the Roman Catholic people. It's just, I think that people need to understand that people like him didn't necessarily have bad intentions. They were just trying to say that, he believed what America's founding was on. There's a reason that people were upset that the Catholics started coming over here, because they suddenly started saying, no, we're being persecuted by the Anglican Church. And it's like, wait, that's why they were upset. They're like, we left there because of you guys. It's like, no, they wanted, and then that stuff, then you have some king over you again. So even though, yeah, people always need to err on the side that some things that happen you just have to place in God's hands, it doesn't mean that what some people are saying, like what he was saying, wasn't true. There was a lot of people with these concerns. That we've only had 2 presidents that were Catholic. One was JFK, and the last one was Joe Biden.